Hello everybody, welcome back. I am so happy you're here today. This is going to be a fun video. I asked you to ask me some questions on the YouTube community tab as well as on Instagram, and you asked me some amazing questions. I have several pages worth of questions right here. Anything from personal questions to questions on skincare, cosmetic procedures, exercise, and a host of other topics. I have so many questions right here that this might have to be a two-parter, but let's see how far we get. So grab yourself some tea, some coffee, some water. I am drinking peppermint tea, and let's answer some questions. By the way, I'm trying a new microphone. Several of you have told me there's an echo in my videos. I'm really sorry. We live in this big sort of hollow house, and even just talking normally without talking to the camera, there's an echo. So unfortunately, there's not much I can do. Hopefully this new microphone will help. Let me know in the comments if it does. And if it doesn't, the only other thing we can do is move, which gets me to my first question. Renee wants to know, any ideas where you will live after Italy? Actually, before I answer Renee's question, let me answer Lisa's question because it will tie right into it. Lisa wants to know, where did you grow up and why did you move to Italy? So I was born and raised in Germany. I was born in Nuremberg, which is Bavaria. When I was 6 years old, my parents got divorced. My mother met a new man and he moved us to Offenburg, which is a small town in the Black Forest, really close to the French border actually. It's beautiful, it's mountainous and very green. So I lived in Offenburg until I was 22. At 22, I went on vacation to California and never returned. That's not quite true. I did go back briefly, but that's a story for a whole nother video. But basically, at 22, I moved to California. Then 10 years ago, I met my husband in California. My husband is in the American Navy, and he was going to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. I was teaching at the Naval Postgraduate School. I was teaching yoga. That's how I met my husband. He was one of my students. So shortly after we got married, we moved. We have moved a lot in the 10 years we've been together. We briefly moved to Virginia. Then we moved to Newport, Rhode Island. After that, we moved to Hawaii for 3 years, to Oahu, which was beautiful. After Oahu, we moved to Paris for 2 years. And then after Paris, we moved here to Naples, Italy. So we moved to Naples, Italy because my husband is stationed here. We have an American base here as well as a NATO base actually. So that is how I ended up in Italy. And we just found out that at the end of this summer, probably September or the latest October, we are going to be moving back to Paris. So we are moving back to Paris in about 6 months, and we're excited about it. Like I said, we have lived in Paris before, so we know the city well. We sort of know where we want to live. We have some friends there, I have some clients there, so it will be nice to move back. I had a couple of questions on filler. Ellen wants to know, do you have filler? If so, how old were you when you first got them? And then Kyla Jean wants to know, in one of your videos, you mentioned you tried filler before, but you probably would not do it again. I am curious about your experience. So currently, I don't have any filler in my face or anywhere else on my body. The last time I did filler was about 4 years ago when we lived in Paris. I was 43 when I had filler done for the first time. It was right before my wedding day, and I will put a picture right here so you can see what it looks like. I thought it looked beautiful. I thought it looked really natural. I had them put some filler in my cheeks and in my lips. The reason I had it put in my cheeks is that I have always been a bit self-conscious of my smile lines. They extend quite far down, so I had them put it in my cheeks to soften them a bit. And of course, I wanted nice and kissable lips for my wedding day. So I liked the look. I thought it looked beautiful and very natural. My husband never even knew I did it. So when it went away, it lasted about 9 months. And by the way, to look like that, it cost me $2,000. But I thought it was for my wedding. I was okay with it. So when it went away, after about 9 months, I had it done again. This time only in my cheeks, not my lips. However, it still cost over $1,000. I still loved the way it looked. Again, my husband never even knew I had it done. But this time it started to stress me out a little bit already. I started to think, is this what I have to do for the rest of my life? The upkeep really started to stress me out. The thought that every time we moved, I would have to find a new provider whom I can trust, let alone the money. Like I said, my husband never knew I did it. I didn't have to hide it from him. I know if I would have told him, I know exactly what he would have said. He would have said, baby, if it makes you happy, then do it. But you don't need it, and wouldn't you rather spend the money on something else? So I never told him. So all of that stressed me out. Regardless, I still had it done a couple more times. When we moved to Hawaii, so after the second time, I waited for a little while because I couldn't find a provider I trusted. When we moved to Hawaii, I found somebody I trusted, and again, I had him put some in my cheeks. Again, I really liked the results. Never told my husband. And then when we moved to Paris, I had it done maybe once or twice more. But there really came a point where I had to sit down with myself and go, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Do I really want to stress out over this? Stress out over, again, finding a provider, hiding it from my husband, or having this whole conversation with him. And I just made the decision that no, I didn't want to stress over it. I was just going to be content with my sunken in cheeks, my smile lines, my lips, which aren't as luscious as I would like them to be. Now, that is not to say that if somebody came up to me and said, hey, do you want some free filler? I would say, yes, please. Like I said, I loved the way it looked. I never had a bad experience, but just the upkeep and the money and all of it just stressed me out too much. So at this point in my life, I don't want to deal with it. That is not to say I will never do filler again, but like I said, where I'm at right now, I'm just content with the way my face looks. Next, Anthony wants to know, can you tell us more about your professional journey and what you've done career-wise? Also, are you still microneedling, and can you give us an update? Let's start with the microneedling because it's a shorter story. Yes, absolutely. I am still microneedling, and I can't ever see myself not microneedling. I have microneedled for almost 11 years now. It has done wonders for my skin. I microneedle about once a month, so I've done it quite regularly. And because I've done it so regularly, I can't really give you an update other than to say, yes, I am still microneedling, and I can't ever see myself not microneedling. And as far as my professional journey and what I've done career-wise, so in Germany, our educational system is a bit different than in the United States. And if you are from Europe, you know that. We don't go to college. We have more of a trade school system. So I went to what's called Realschule. And when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I signed up to go to business school. Why? I don't know, but I did. And just before school started, a friend of the family approached me. He was an optometrist. He had his own business, and he asked me, would I like to be an optometrist? So I said, why not? So I started going to optometry school and also worked in the field. So that's how we do it in Germany. We go to school, we work in the field. I did that for about a year and realized this is not for me. So after 1 year of being an optometrist or studying to be an optometrist, I decided I wanted to be a physician's assistant. So I switched careers. I again went to school to be a PA and worked in a doctor's office. And I really actually enjoyed it. I loved the patient contact. I loved doing wound care and treating people and working with people. But even as I was going through my training and my degree, I realized I would rather be on the other side of healthcare. I would rather help people to not get sick in the first place. So I finished my degree. Shortly after that, I went to California, never returned. So I briefly tried working as a physician's assistant in California, and it wasn't that easy because in the beginning I was not legal. And like I said, I had realized even as I was going through my certification that I would rather work on the other side of healthcare. So what I ended up doing is I went to college and took a bunch of classes to become a personal trainer. So in 1994, a long time ago, I became certified as a personal trainer, started working as a personal trainer, sort of with the idea in mind that I would like to become a physical therapist. So while working during the day, I went to night school and took classes to become a physical therapist. Because I did all my schooling in Germany, none of my education was credited. So I had to start from scratch. I had to take all kinds of classes which had nothing to do with physical therapy, English, math, chemistry, social studies, all kinds of subjects which had nothing to do with physical therapy. And it took me quite a while to work my way up to even get to the physical therapy classes. But I really wanted to be a PT, so I went to school in the evening and worked as a personal trainer during the day. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then one day it was as if a brick hit me over the head, and suddenly I saw everything very clearly. And I thought, what am I doing? Why am I exhausting myself? Because I had so many clients come to me who told me they had gone to physical therapy for who knows how many months, and they weren't really helped. And I had helped them in just a couple of sessions. So I thought, what am I doing? Why am I wasting all my time and energy and money if I'm already doing what I want to do without the degree on the wall? Yes, I would like to have the degree on the wall, is what I thought back then. But I also would have student loans and overhead, having to deal with insurances. So that day when this brick hit me over the head, I decided to stop schooling and just to focus on being a personal trainer, which I loved doing. So I also became a certified yoga teacher, and because after training clients, I would rub their shoulders and they always would say, you have to become a massage therapist. I also became a certified massage therapist. So since 1994, I have been working as a personal trainer, so basically half of my life, and I am really happy with my choice. I love training people, and like I said, I love being on the other end of healthcare, hopefully helping people to not get sick in the first place. I also love being a yoga teacher. I absolutely love it. It really makes me happy. I don't work as a massage therapist anymore because I broke my neck 10 years ago and it just became too physically taxing. But this is what I've done career-wise, and like I said, I'm really happy with my choices. I got a couple of questions on hormones. Bob Lob wants to know, what made you decide to use HRT and what do you use? And then Carol wants to know, do you get your hormones checked every 6 months or once a year? And what is the procedure? So I've talked about this in another video, and if you're interested, I will link it down below. But basically, because of my anorexia, I have been on hormone replacement therapy for a long time. I was put on the birth control pill at 17. Shortly after that, I became anorexic. So even on the birth control pill, my periods disappeared. But every time I tried to get off the pill, because I really had no interest in anything other than starving myself, every time I tried to get off the pill, I still wouldn't, of course, get any periods. And then one time in my early 20s, they did a bone density test when I went off the pill, and my bones were already getting brittle. So back then my doctor, he panicked. He said, we need to put you back on the pill to prevent osteoporosis. So I stayed on the birth control pill until I was 38. And at 38, I decided I wanted to get off it, and it threw my body for a loop. I had all kinds of symptoms. My hair was falling out in clumps. I could not sleep. I did not sleep for 1 year, and I'm not exaggerating. I was on 5 different sleep medications, heavy sleep medications, which I would rotate around so I wouldn't get used to one. And with those medications, I would maybe get a couple of hours of sleep a night. I had hot flashes like crazy. I was depressed. I had aches and pains. I really was miserable. It came to the point where I was ready, sounds dramatic, but I was ready to just jump off a cliff. I tried to deal with all of these symptoms naturally. I went to a naturopath who put me on all kinds of pellets and creams and who knows what herbs. None of them helped. Then I went to another doctor who put me on all kinds of hormones, including human growth hormone, injectable human growth hormone. I spent $75,000 back then to see this doctor because she didn't take my insurance. Nothing helped. I didn't get any better. So finally she said, there must be something wrong with you. Then she said, maybe you have a brain tumor. So I had a couple of CAT scans just to make sure I don't have a brain tumor. And then she just said, it's you, there's something wrong with you. So finally, when I really was so exhausted and I just didn't know what to do anymore, I really, like I said, I was ready to just jump off a cliff. I met another doctor who looked at my lab results and said, boy, you are really messed up. Let's help you. He took me to a pharmacy, put me on bioidentical hormones, called me every day to see how I was doing. And within a month, I felt like myself again. I started sleeping. My hot flashes disappeared. My hair stopped falling out. I wasn't depressed anymore. My aches and pains disappeared. I, like I said, felt like myself again. So this is why I went on hormone replacement therapy, because I felt miserable. I tried for 1 year to have my body do what it should do naturally. I was only 38 back then. But I think because of having starved myself for so long, I had done some irreversible damage. So this is why I went on hormone replacement therapy. And I am on what's called the Wiley protocol. And the Wiley protocol is bioidentical hormones given to you in a rhythmic fashion. So Wiley, I can't remember her first name right now, but she believes that we should feed our body hormones in the way it would naturally make hormones, which I completely agree with. So naturally, when we produce hormones, they are not static, they are rhythmic. They rise and fall and they rise and fall. So the Wiley protocol is bioidentical hormones applied in a rhythmic fashion. It is transdermal, so it comes in creams. I take estrogen, progesterone, and a tiny bit of testosterone. I take the estrogen the whole time, progesterone for only 2 weeks of the month, and then a little bit of testosterone every day. And with this method, I have regular periods, which is very strange to me because when I was anorexic, like I said, I didn't have periods for decades, and I feel fantastic on it. I always say to my husband, I would rather not eat than not have my hormones. But hormone replacement therapy is such a personal decision, and I know there's so much confusion around it and so much scary misinformation out there. So if you are thinking of going on hormone replacement therapy, I hope you can find a good doctor to work with you. But as far as testing my hormones, I should get them tested every 6 months to, at the very least, once a year. But with the pandemic, that hasn't really happened. I think I tested them the last time, as far as tested my blood, probably about 1.5 years ago. So I would go to the lab and get my blood tested. And because it is a rhythmic method, I would have to go 2 different times of the months. So I would go on day 11 or 12 to get my estrogen tested, and then day 20 or 21 of my cycle to get my progesterone tested. But like I said, I haven't done that because of the pandemic. But what I did just recently is I took a test called the Dutch test, which is something you can do at home. It's dried urine, and it is a very comprehensive hormone test. It tests all your sex hormones, your hormone metabolites, your cortisol, your melatonin. I believe it even tests glutathione. It is very comprehensive. So if you cannot find a doctor who is willing to test you, I will leave the website down below for the Dutch test. You can order this test yourself. You take it at home, you send it off, and then you get the results. I haven't got mine yet, but I'm waiting for them. But like I said, it is a very comprehensive hormone test, and I really think it is well worth the money. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any more questions on hormones, hormone replacement therapy, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Send me an email. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, because so many of you have already reached out and told me your doctor is not willing to work with you, which drives me crazy. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will do whatever I can to help you. And I also have a couple of videos with my doctor on this channel. I will link them down below. In one we talk about estrogen, and in one we talk about thyroid. So if you haven't seen them, like I said, I will link them down below. Wendy, from My Life Wendy, wants to know, what made you decide to do YouTube, and what are your must-have skincare items and ingredients? So I started YouTube because when we moved to Italy, I wasn't working. I am actually legally allowed to work here because I am a European citizen, but the language is a bit of a barrier. So I wasn't working. And though it was kind of nice in the beginning to do whatever I want to do, it became quite empty after a while. And I really missed connecting with people and hopefully making just a tiny bit of a positive difference in somebody's life. So I thought, why not try YouTube? What do I have to lose? It felt a bit strange at 51 to start a YouTube channel, but again, I thought, what do I have to lose? So I thought if I had 50 subscribers, seemed like a lot, and if I just make a difference in one of their lives, then it is all going to be worth it. And also I think because I have struggled so much with my own self-worth, self-acceptance, learning to love myself, I was hoping that again I could be helpful to somebody and hopefully make a tiny bit of a positive difference in somebody's life. However, I did not think I would get this much out of doing YouTube. Really, I have had the most incredible interactions with so many of you, and I don't know what I would have done this last year with this pandemic without you. You have given me so much, and I'm speechless right now. It is really something that touches my heart every single day, and I really hope that I make just a tiny bit of difference in your lives, because you make a huge difference in my life. Thank you so much. Now I forgot the other part of the question. Let me look it up. What are your must-have skincare items and ingredients? Okay. Must-have skincare items and ingredients. Let's start with ingredients. I would say number one, retinoids. Whether that is retinol, I have a hair right here, sorry. Whether that is retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid. My favorite is retinoic acid, but some people can't handle that. So any form of retinoid, I think, is a must. Retinoids are really one of the few ingredients which have ever been proven to help with collagen production. So definitely retinoids. What else? A good antioxidant serum, whether that is vitamin C, copper peptides, an NAD serum, a green tea serum, any sort of good antioxidant serum. I think a combination would be best. Sunscreen, of course, sunscreen, very important. I personally also like stem cells, whether they are human-derived or plant-derived. And actually I was talking about a moisturizer I really like, which has plant stem cells in it. And one of you said, you are a medical professional. How do you believe that plant stem cells can affect our stem cells? And that's a good question. And in the beginning, I was very skeptical of that as well. But I actually have read a ton of research which looks very promising on plant stem cells, also on human stem cells, but both of them can actually affect our skin. Now, it's not like putting on stem cells and they turn into stem cells, but stem cells, similar to peptides, work sort of like messenger molecules, and they tell our cells to get their act together and produce more collagen and elastin. So again, putting on a stem cell doesn't turn into a stem cell, but there are promising studies on plant stem cells as well as human stem cells showing that they can definitely affect our skin. So a good stem cell factor, whether that is human derived or plant derived, I would say for me is a must. And then what else? Let me see, I don't want to forget anything. Of course, a good moisturizer. And moisturizers to me are like shoes to some women. I love moisturizers and I love trying different ones. So just a good moisturizer, something that works with your skin, possibly also has some active ingredients like peptides or stem cells or vitamin C, ceramides. And I would say that's probably it. I would say those are my must-have skincare items and ingredients. I just ordered some azelaic acid. I haven't received it yet, but that might become one of my must-have ingredients. One of you raved about it, so I wanted to try it, but like I said, I haven't received it. But that might just be one of my must-have ingredients. I will let you know what I think about it. But so far, retinoids, sunscreen, a stem factor, whether it is plant-derived or human-derived, a good moisturizer, and then a good antioxidant serum. Victoria wants to know, do you have any tips for adult acne, products, foods, or supplements? Adult acne, I honestly don't know that much about. I will try to do my best to answer this question, but if any of you have any suggestions, please share them down below. But I would say as far as products, Retin-A. Retin-A started out as an acne medication until we realized it also helps with fine lines and wrinkles. So Retin-A can be very helpful. Internal vitamin A for a limited amount of time, because too much vitamin A can be toxic. It can store in our liver and be toxic. But Accutane is basically very strong vitamin A. I am not a fan of Accutane. I have seen some of my friends take Accutane and they had the worst side effects. So it's not something I would recommend. But some internal vitamin A for a short amount of times, I think, could be helpful. Also azelaic acid. Like I said, I just ordered some. I didn't order it for acne. It is also supposed to help with all kinds of other skin conditions. But azelaic acid can help with acne. So those are the only products I can think about. Blue light therapy, I think, could be very beneficial. Studies have shown that blue LED light penetrates the sebaceous glands and can help control oil production. So blue light therapy can be beneficial. I also think that anytime something shows up on our skin, we have to look at what's going on internally. So diet, I think, is very important. Possibly cutting out dairy, gluten, or other foods which one might be sensitive to, and really working on the gut microbiome, eating lots of pre-probiotic and probiotic foods, cutting out sugar as much as possible, cutting out inflammatory foods. I personally have never had acne, but I had my share of dermatitis. And I actually, when I had perioral dermatitis, and when my perioral dermatitis started, I was only gluten-free and dairy-free, but I still had perioral dermatitis. Once I cut out inflammatory foods, other inflammatory foods, my perioral dermatitis disappeared. But while I had it, I definitely realized that stressful events would make it flare up. And I would think the same would be true with acne. I would think that stress management could also be helpful. But like I said, unfortunately, I don't know that much about adult acne. So if any of you have any suggestions, please share them down below. Next, Renee wants to know, have you had different times in your life when you had different amounts of muscle on your body? She goes on to say, I had a lot of muscle 4 years ago, then got deadly sick. I am now going through menopause and it seems I can't gain muscle back. Do you think age has to do with it? That's such a good question, and it's affecting many of us. So first of all, yes, I have gone through different times in my life where I had different amounts of muscle on my body. When I broke my neck 10 years ago, I lost a lot of muscle because I wasn't allowed to do anything for almost 2 months. And then, of course, when I was anorexic, I did not have a lot of muscle. So yes, I have gone through times in my life where my body composition was different. As far as does age have to do with it being difficult to gain muscle? Yes and no. As we age, we experience age-related muscle loss. It's something we all experience. Unfortunately, it happens as early as our 30s. Every decade, we lose muscle mass. And this loss of muscle mass is actually one of the reasons why people, as they get older, gain weight. Because muscle mass is metabolically active, much more so than fat. So this loss of metabolically active muscle mass, again, is one of the reasons why people, as they age, have a tendency to gain weight. So age definitely has some to do with it because we are fighting this age-related muscle loss. But I truly believe that we can gain muscle at any age. It's going to be a bit more difficult as we are older. And of course, hormones have to do with it. But I asked Renee, and she said she was on hormone replacement therapy. So hormone depletion is not a problem here. But again, Renee is still fighting, like all of us, this age-related muscle loss. But one thing I see quite frequently in my female clients is that as women, we are oftentimes afraid to lift heavy weights or to challenge our body because there is this fear that we are going to bulk up. But unfortunately, if we want to put on muscle, we have to challenge our body. We have to break our muscle down, it repairs itself and grows back stronger. If I don't lift heavy enough, or I don't necessarily have to lift weights to put on muscle, I can use my own body resistance, I can do sprints. There are a lot of different ways to put on muscle, but I have to challenge my body for it to be needing to change. So like I said, this is something I see quite a bit, unfortunately, in my female clients, is this fear of getting bulky. It's not going to happen. We don't have enough testosterone. And if you see a woman who is quite bulky, usually they take testosterone. Now, I said earlier, I take a tiny bit of testosterone. It's not enough to make me bulky. Another thing I see quite frequently in my female clients, unfortunately, is that we women, again, we are so afraid to gain weight. We oftentimes reduce our calories. And if we don't feed the body enough calories to gain muscle, then it's not going to happen. So Renee, I don't know if any of those are your problems, if you maybe are a bit afraid to lift a bit heavier, or if you don't eat enough calories. If neither of those are your problems, there could be other deficiencies which make it more difficult to have possibly enough energy to challenge yourself. I know for myself, I started taking NAD precursors about a year ago, and I've talked about this in other videos. I will link them down below. But taking NAD precursors made a big difference. I have gotten a lot stronger since and put on some muscle, even though I'm 52. But like I said, yes, age has definitely some to do with it. Since we are fighting this age-related muscle loss, hormones have to do with it. Hormone depletion is definitely going to make it much more difficult to put on muscle and also to fight the extra body fat that wants to creep on when we are hormone depleted. But again, I really truly believe that at any age we can gain muscle. But we have to challenge ourselves, we have to eat enough. And like I said, if those aren't the problem, then there might be some other deficiency. So maybe getting a blood test, making sure vitamin D, B12, all of those check out, and maybe some NAD precursors. I take NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. It is a form of vitamin B3. I will link down below what I take. But that, like I said, has made a big difference because at age 50, supposedly, we only have about 50% of our NAD left. And NAD is a molecule which is responsible for hundreds of functions in our body, including energy production. So if we are low in that, it's going to make it more difficult for us to have enough energy to lift heavy enough or to challenge our body to gain muscle. So hopefully that helps. If you have any more questions, Renee, feel free to email me privately and we can talk about it. Next, Sarah wants to know, are you working now or planning on working again once the pandemic is over? If so, doing what? So no, right now I'm not working. I started working a little bit once we had been here for a while, right before I started my channel. I actually started teaching a yoga class from home and I had a couple of clients. But again, the language is a bit of a barrier. Then the pandemic happened and I stopped working. So I'm not currently working aside from doing YouTube. But when we moved to Paris, I would like to work again. When we lived in Paris before, I actually worked quite a bit. I was teaching classes at the embassy. I was teaching classes from home. I had clients every day. So I really loved it and I would like to work again when we move to Paris. Hopefully by then the pandemic will be behind us, or at least close to being behind us. So yes, definitely when we move to Paris, I would like to work again. And as I said earlier, I have a couple of clients still there, so that will be nice. But currently I'm not working, but definitely am planning on working again. I still have so many questions right here. I feel like I haven't even made a dent, but I don't want this video to be too long. I know personally my attention span is not that long, so I'm going to stop it right here, pick this up tomorrow or the day after. So hopefully you enjoyed this video so far. Any more questions or comments, leave them down below. I always love to hear from you. Thank you so much for asking such amazing questions, and I will see you in part 2. Bye.